Hello and welcome to Thought for March the 1st. Our readings are Leviticus chapters 5 and 6, Psalm 105 and 1 Corinthians chapter 14. And our thought is, the one who prophesies builds up. Today's 14th chapter of 1 Corinthians completes Paul's detailed advice to the believers on the wise use of spiritual gifts that were then available. Those who claim some type of spiritual gift today almost always quote very selectively from this chapter, ignoring the context. They had no Bible to read in Corinth like we have. It seems there were sayings in circulation. Paul quotes some in 1 Timothy 1 verse 15, in chapter 4 verses 8 and 9, and 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 11. Also in Titus 3 verse 8. But there is one particular gift that Paul stresses. And today's first verse states, "Earnestly desire spiritual gifts, especially that you may prophesy." Now, what is the gift of prophecy? It is clearly explained in verse 3. The one who prophesies speaks to the people for their upbuilding and encouragement and consolation. And then in verse 4 and 5, the one who prophesies builds up the ecclesia, or builds up the church, as the record has it. The one who prophesies is greater than the one who speaks in tongues, that the church may be built up. And we commented yesterday on verse 23 on the negative effect of tongue speaking in church. In contrast to tongues, if believers all prophesy in the sense of upbuilding fellow believers, how positive this would be. Remember how this was God's primary commission to the Old Testament prophets. Frequently their task was to turn the people back to serving God properly. And in the same way, prophecy was used by the Corinthian ecclesia and those with spirit-empowered messages. They were to build up their fellow believers. And then when an unbeliever or outsider enters, he is convicted by all, and he is called to account by all. The secrets of his heart are disclosed. And so, falling on his face, he will worship God and declare that God is really among you. We read this in verse 24 and 25. Now, there is surely a parallel to this today when God's word is logically and clearly explained in the effect it has, usually over time, and the reverent spirit it produces. When a person who comes amongst us and is seeking God, then his or her mind will become convinced that God and Christ are really among us. In modern language use, we should say, awesome. Do we really sense this? Tomorrow's powerful 15th chapter is an essential foundation in our efforts to prophesy and convince others and ourselves of our foundation, purpose and hope in living. Today's chapter concludes with appropriate words, "My brothers, earnestly desire to prophesy. All things should be done decently and in order." We hear the word of prophecy today through reading the divine word every day. Let us not neglect to listen. Well, thank you once again for joining us for Thought for the Day, where together we can open up the pages of God's word, knowing that word to be a lamp to our feet and a light to our path.